right. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So tell me, what brings you in to see me today?
You see, we just had our senior night game last night, and well, I didn't do too hot and kind of blew it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been catching a lot of grief lately today about it, and it's just been bugging me.
So when you say you blew it, can you kind of tell me a little about that?
It was, we played our rival earlier in the year, and I had my best game of the year, put up the highest points I've ever scored in a game. And
Congratulations.
we went and played them at home for senior night and kind of went out and laid an egg.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by that. And caught a lot of grief from the expectations that were supposed to be there for us for that game. And kind of been catching grief from students and faculty today. And it's just been, getting me down a little bit.
Really? So students and faculty, so when you say catching grief, can you kind of tell me a little about that as well, like how they've been interacting with you?
My friends all made face posters and went all out and
Wow.
sold out our gym and had all these ideas and things they were going to do when we were winning in the fourth quarter and what we were going to celebrate with afterwards, and kind of, told me pregame all these expectations they had for us. And,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went out there and said, we beat them once. It's no big deal. We'll just do it again. And all my friends told me, just do the same thing you did the first time. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried, but every time I'd shoot something I made the first game, it wouldn't go in. So, and then my teachers all coached me either in football or track, and I know it's like kind of a genuine thing, but they just kind of be like, hey, what happened last night? Haha, didn't look too good, hopefully it doesn't ruin the rest of your season kind of stuff.
Wow. So how does that make you feel when they say stuff like, hope it doesn't ruin the rest of your season?
It sucks when the whole class is sitting there looking at you with him asking you that.
Yeah, sure, I can imagine. And how did you feel in that moment when they said that to you?
I wanted to get up and hit him on. But the only thing I could sit there was just put my head down and act like they didn't say anything to me. I didn't know how to react to this situation, really.
Wow, that's tough, especially coming from a teacher. You'd think they might, know a little better not to call you out in the middle of class like that. What makes you think they did that?
I don't know, overhearing friends giving me grief the whole next day. I obviously wasn't in a very good mood, wasn't trying to interact with anybody, and, they kept hustling me about it, but I assume they were just going all along with that.
Wow. Well, if I can go back a little bit, you mentioned that either a game you'd had before your senior night game, you played amazingly well.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that performance in that game?
It was this third game of the year. We got put up against them in a tournament for Thanksgiving, and it was the game before the championship, so it was the winner's bracket. We'd won our first two, and we played them, and we got paired up with them to go to play in the championship, and we beat them by 7, but it had been up and down the whole game, and we were playing against them. They had 2 kids already signed D1 contracts, and
Wow.
kind of just went out there and said, we don't really care if you've already committed somewhere, like we're still better than you, and it just kind of fed off of that, and I feel like the spotlight got too big the other night, and it just tried to do too much, I guess.
Well, you mentioned about we don't really care what you are or what you're going to do in the future playing at a Division I institution. You just went out and played.
Yeah.
And so that's how you felt for that game. And what happened in this game? Prior to that, you were telling me that your friends had all these expectations. They were going to say all the chants and the things they were going to do in the fourth quarter when y'all were winning. What else kind of happened before that game?
It was just a long season until that point, and they got to it, and it just kind of was the only thing left on the schedule anyone really cared about. And that's, months before that, even 8-10 games, that's all the friends were talking about. We'd have games against Champaign and Urbana, and that week, and the only thing people would ask me about was 3 weeks down the road what we're going to do for Charleston, and it was just...
Wow. How does something like that make you feel when you are working to get these wins against teams right now, and all anybody's talking about is something that's happening down the road?
It's tough, because every time we beat a team, they would ask us, are you going to play like that against Charleston, or we'd lose a game, and they'd say, you better not play like that against Charleston, and they kind of just set every game in retrospect to what the expectations for that future game were going to be.
So it sounds like this started well even before the day of the game, when you said your friends were talking about expectations. It sounded like this has been going on for almost half the season.
Oh yeah, they had been planning stuff since December for a game in March, and it was just long, prolonged. Hey, what you gonna do with this, that? They're gonna make adjustments from last time y'all played. How are you gonna fix that?
Wow. So if we can go back to before the game with all this, not necessarily talk about it and expectations. How did that make you feel before that game versus other games you might have played where people weren't necessarily talking about the opponent?
It was tougher. Usually before games, I'm pretty relaxed, and I'm loose, and I'm just saying I just gotta go out and do me tonight, and I gotta follow the game plan put and set, and I'm not trying to do it all myself, and I'm going out there and I'm just playing. And then I feel like that game, I was trying to block everyone out so much just to avoid being the guy that let it down, that it got thrown to me that our game plan was for me to do what I did the first time, and I didn't want it to be that way, but the coaches thought that it would be something that would work, and friends got word of that hey, it's going to be the vocal point of this game, and I guess I just overthought it and was putting way too much pressure on myself.
So you tried kind of have you ever heard of the quicksand in sports? So you were trying so hard to block everything out that you ended up sinking deeper and deeper?
Well, it started out great, but I feel like we broke out early. It's just I guess the larger the league got, the more I started to think about after instead of what I was doing currently. And it just kind of, because the expectations weren't like that for other games. They were just, go out there and play. You win, you lose, you lose,
Right.
This game was like, hey, if you win, it's going to be great. We're going to celebrate. We're going to go out. We're going to do all this. It's going to be fantastic. We haven't won our senior night game against them in Lord knows how long. And then it's like, if you lose, though, welcome to the train of losers.
Wow.
You kind of haven't changed anything in the past, and those games earlier don't mean anything.
So it really kind of, all the hard work that you put in winning these games before basically meant nothing unless you won this one game.
I would say in the eyes of the community, yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did the coaches deal with all of this? How would they approach practices? You said that the coaches made a game plan that was kind of out of the norm for how you normally played. You said you didn't want to be, not necessarily the guy, but the game didn't necessarily revolve around you most of the time. And this was a game plan that did revolve around you, and you're telling me you weren't quite comfortable with that?
Wasn't that I wasn't comfortable. I don't know, I didn't want it to be, if we did lose, that it was my fault. I didn't want it to all be on me. It had been great if we won, but I knew there was always that option, because you never can go into a game knowing absolute guarantee you're going to win. And
of course.
I didn't want it to be that, hey, he put up the most shots tonight, didn't produce, and you all lost because he didn't usually make what he made. And I don't know, it was just stressful.
Well, let me ask you a question. So you said it would have been great if y'all won. Kind of put me in a hypothetical situation. What if y'all had won that game? Would you have considered yourself to be the one that won the game, or would you have considered it a team effort?
Had the shots been made instead of missed, it would have been, but I never wanted it to be that way. I just, the coaches kind of said, hey, we're going to run this for you. You got to get open, you got to get it, and, you got to push it and all that stuff. And they were kind of pushing me more than anyone else. So I feel like it would have just played its way out to where it would have been perceived that way. But, like any other sport, no one gets open just by themselves. They've got to give up their opportunity to score to give you an opportunity. So
right.
It'd have been perceived that way, but it wouldn't have made any difference.
So it would have been a team effort. They would have been sacrificing their shots and setting picks to get you open. So you would have seen that as a team effort, if y'all had won.
Correct, but the community wouldn't have. The score box is all people look at, and that PTS is all people care about in high school.
Yeah. And
it would have been fluctuated to where it would have been higher on me than anyone else, and it's just, when mine wasn't as high as it was supposed to be, it was kind of doomed as, my fault.
Wow. Do the coaches view it that way?
No. It was tough. We lost our center a week before that to a knee sprain, so they kind of stressed more and more how the older guys kind of have to step up. We only had 3 seniors, and one of them was out, so it was kind of like, it's up to you two, and you bring it up, and you the rest of you guys just make sure you get them open, and we'll get it going that way, but I don't know. I guess he treated it like any other game afterwards, said, hey, we'll come back to practice tomorrow, prep for the next game. This one's just one behind us, don't let it drag you down. And they didn't change the game plan from anything else until that game was the next one on our schedule. So it wasn't like they were looming for the opportunity like the rest of the community was.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like this issue is not so much with your coaches and how they decided to play the game, but how your community and your school viewed this.
Yeah. It was just the after effects of, the positivity they'd usually give you, like, hey, y'all only lost by 5 last night. You looked good against the better team, use that as momentum. And the next day after that game, it was more along the lines, hey, you guys lost by 7, but, you kind of let everyone down and all that stuff.
Wow.
And, we were all really looking forward to a win on a senior night against Charleston for the longest time. And, the way y'all been playing this year, we, kind of put that asterisk next to the game and said, this is going to be the year, and it just wasn't.
Mm-hmm. And that's difficult when you go in your whole year, and that's, the high school sports, they're big within the community. And when you feel that you let that community down, have you tried anything? I know this just happened recently, but have you tried anything to deal with that, or what coping strategies have you used to try to either rise above it or change your perception of it or tune it out? Have you tried any of those things?
I'm just trying to not perform as poorly in the next one, I guess. Just prep even harder than you have been, but it's just, there's only so much you can do, and then, we don't play again for a couple of days, and every day it keeps getting brought up to you, and you're trying just to move on about it, but you keep getting reminded, and it's just kind of tough to get it out of your head. So it's been a long process just trying to move on.
You've had a pretty successful season this year?
We
like
have.
You personally?
Yeah.
My apologies.
It's it's been all right. I've had good and bad. Sometimes the good gets overzealous in the papers, and people see that, and they just kind of they expect more out of you, and when you do bad, they're kind of just like, hey, don't worry about it. But this game was just different. It's just
Well, the reason that I brought that up is that you mentioned about how you want to prepare differently now for the games down the road. Had you had that kind of mindset, I need to prepare differently, I need to do different things in earlier games when you maybe hadn't played your best?
I would usually go the next day after any other game, and I'd do some things good the night before, and I'd do some things bad, and I'd come up and the coach would be like, hey, you didn't do so hot in this area the other night in the game, we're going to focus more on that today. And it'd be different every game. There'd be different scenarios the coach would work with you on. And then after that game, it was just like, geez, you've got to rethink everything. You just got to kind of start from scratch. And, none of that stuff really helped you prepare for the biggest moments. So obviously doing something wrong from the process. So you're just kind of trying to redevelop yourself and try to, mold something new this late out of, hardly nothing for that of. So
what do you think about that?
I think it's just more for a kid to think about, when he's 18 years old. It's
Absolutely.
just kind of, he's trying to, avoid all his friends just because he doesn't want to remind that. So he's isolating himself during the day, and then at night he can't really talk about it because they'll get that brought back up, or, it's just a lingering thing that just kind of doesn't go away.
Sure. And you said your coach said that to you, that, hey, you tried some things and they didn't work for you for this game, so you just need to rethink everything. You said your coach said something like that, or that's your
coach
thought?
just, like in the other game, he says, hey, you did well at the free throw line last night. That's not a problem. You handled being down low against a taller guy well, but, you didn't shoot too well. Did you get enough shots up the week before? Do we need to get more shots up this week for the next game? Or just stuff like he would any other game, but it was just more of a mental mindset, like, hey, you kind of let down all your friends and you let down all your teammates and stuff.
Well, I'll go somewhere with this question. What type of player are you? If you could define yourself and with characteristics, a sentence, how would you say you are?
I would say undersized. We're playing people every night 6'8" and up, and I'm only 6 foot, and it's tough.